Hello and welcome to another episode of Gaming at the Round Table with Crystal, Maverick, and myself, Jojo. Today we're going to cover gaming trends in 2024, which can kind of cover a few different topics. But I'll let Mav pick one and we'll run from that one.
Sure. One of the ones that I've been thinking about lately was the streaming in the industry and streaming games as a platform. I know we talked about this a little bit at some point, but it seems to be the future, right? Like, Joe, you made a post. Oh gosh, I hope I'm not reiterating this, but you made a post about. I'm
It was
blanking.
Xbox's essentially now cloud streaming, so you can play Xbox without an Xbox. So
Yes.
you can play the Xbox through, I believe it was the Amazon Fire Stick. So it's essentially play wherever you have that plugged in.
Mm-hmm. And so you take something like that and you combine it with the fact that you can stream games entirely on airplanes, play it through the screen on the chair. You can stream games on Netflix, on both your actual Netflix, like a Fire Stick on the TV, and on your app. I noticed the other day. And there was one other major service I saw recently where they were just like, "You want to play some games, kid?" And I was like, "What? This is not. This
I
is not
think
what I
Amazon
expected."
Prime does it too.
Yeah, it does. They have their, I believe it's called the Luna service, but I'm assuming
It's
this
coming
kind of
back.
plays into it.
Yeah.
Now it's coming back to me. I took screenshots real recently. I'm going to jog my memory here because I was doing something in my daily routine. Yeah, I've got screenshots here.
But I would have a question for both of you guys as far as developing a game.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think, or would you think this is a nightmare for game developers because now they have to account for it being cross platform no matter what they do?
See, I would think that it wouldn't because a lot of small games make mobile games, right? And I feel like this fits the realm of mobile games because like Netflix and stuff can you have more easy access to those
But I would
mobile
think as a
games.
AAA developer, because I know that for sure Sony and Microsoft have very strict guidelines to how you develop games for them.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So if Microsoft is turning around saying, well, we're going to be able to stream all of our games through said services, are they now turning to their developers going like, hey, well, you now have to account for this?
Probably to some
Yeah.
extent. It depends
Look
on the
at
game. A lot of these games that they're stream. Xbox is a real bad example. Uh,
that. Yeah.
Microsoft has a lot of oomph. Just despite Xbox not being the premier console, uh, Microsoft can still do say something like "We're doing this," and then, well, I guess we're doing that, right? There's billions of dollars behind those statements. Uh, Let me back up to your question. So, developers, cross-platform, that kind of thing. I think if you knew from the get-go, like, oh, I'm going to make a game, and it's going to be fairly small, so I'm going to make it for either mobile or I plan to have it on a computer, especially if it's for computer. Well, that's Microsoft's problem, right? Like you get it onto something where it can be played. If Microsoft agrees to sell it, then I have no evidence to back this up, but I'd imagine that like they would just be like, okay, cool, we've got this link thing, we put it into our cloud because cloud is just a computer, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for any non-technical people, the cloud is a physical, real computer, just not in your house. And so that's all they're doing, right? Cloud gaming, cloud computing, cloud hosting, all this stuff. It's just a computer that usually AWS or Amazon Web Services owns. And they say, hey, you pay us a little bit and we'll deal with all the cables and the management and networking and security and all this other stuff and we'll host it on the cloud, which just means we'll host it for you and you'll pay us.
I feel like that's where, as a small developer, it would really get, um, I want to say cumbersome, but I don't feel like that's the right word.
But do they
But
have to
like,
sell their code to be able to do that?
Well, you always ship your code. So I don't think unless you're working with Unity or other game engines where you're selling your soul to them. When you no is the short answer. You generally don't sell your code to who you're selling your game through, right? But there are issues because if you want to sell your game on PlayStation, for example, you have to make sure that it is developed or altered so that the code adheres to their standards and their frameworks and all that stuff. And that's way harder to do after the fact. And you need permission to do it anyway. They've got a toolkit that's like, use all these tools, but we PlayStation aren't even going to give you tools unless we approve you first. So it's not like you can just walk in the door. Now, to Unity's credit, and who's their big competitor? They make Fortnite and Epic Games. Unreal Engine, exactly, with the same umbrella. Those two major game development tools, they have things built in to where, hey, you know you're going to be making it for Xbox, PlayStation, whatever, right? Here are the tools you need. We have permission, and by proxy, you have permission. Just give us, 5% of your soul, and we'll do it for you. I can't imagine it being any more difficult than that for the whole Microsoft cloud computing thing. I've never done it, so.
But I figured that was worth throwing out there
Yeah.
from that standpoint of it.
Who you want to ship your game to is a big deal, especially if you know early on. So finding out after the fact is a lot more difficult, as we all know. And if you make it huge, that's like a first world problem to have, right? You make an indie game, you release it on who knows what platform, and then suddenly the major hitters are like, hey, we want your game.
Yeah, but doesn't that also mean more hands in your cookie jar? Like
exactly.
That's what I meant by like you kind of have to sell, like, oh, okay, well, you buy this and then you get everything anyways.
Like, I didn't think I wanted blonde hair, and if apparently to get into the club I got to dye my hair blonde. Well, that sounds crazy. We'll pay you $1 million. 1 second. I feel like that's kind of what I mean by a first world problem. Is it's probably a pain, but you're doing it because you're about to make a lot of money, or more money than you're making.
Yeah.
I did find the screenshots. Sorry, I'm struggling today. The screenshots, and I'm going to hold it up for a moment just to kind of get the idea. It won't focus, so I'll describe it here in a second. But this is actually
down.
Oh, that's smart. Might be too dark now. Oh,
no, you're good.
That was slick. Yeah, so this is a screenshot of when I was on YouTube. And here's another one. And these little cards that are on the screen in the middle that are changing every time I swipe here are the various games. And these games I always thought were like advertisements you'd see on a website or on YouTube, and you'd be like, clearly fake. Skip, whatever. So some of these were real. I actually went into one just to make sure it was legit. And of course, I chose one with a spaceship or whatever. And it was like a little arcade type game. And it stunned me because this is YouTube. YouTube is not for gaming. YouTube is for watching videos. And here it was, YouTube, and it's the perfect platform. What does YouTube do? It streams mega gajillion bytes of information all day, every day for years. There's like no better platform for streaming with the history to back it up. And so I guess YouTube felt like, well, if other people are going to stream games, well, why can't we? And they do. Yeah. And most of them are free. I didn't see any of them that cost money. They're just like, you want to play an arcade game? Anything that keeps you in our app, here you go.
I think they make enough money on their back end as far as advertisement that stuff like that doesn't really hurt them.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you mean like offering it for free?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Just draw in the young audience.
It'll be offered for free for now.
Oh, yeah. Get YouTube Red and you can play with more hours or something, right? Is it YouTube Red? I don't know what they call it anymore.
Yeah, Red has their like movie service, stuff like that, I think.
Yeah, I always thought that was terrible advertising. Because YouTube Red sounds like you're watching things, right? And Red is like Red Light District.
Makes me think of the Red Box.
I think that was their pitch.
That's probably what they were thinking. I was not thinking that when I read it. I was like, are you serious? Are we going 18 plus here, YouTube? What's happening? That's what I assumed it was. Anyway.
I mean, that's like HBO back in the day after a certain time.
certain time. HBO, you need to pay a lot of money to watch HBO back in the day. We have steered way off course. So the idea was there's this trend in the industry for gaming where streaming, free streaming or otherwise, is how you can play games. And they're not choppy or whatever. And some of the games that were available, we did talk about this a little bit a few podcasts back. There were well-known games that were large that were being streamed. And one of the games I think that could have been streamed, we talked about a little bit, was probably Hades.
Hades too.
Hades, right? That's a fantastic game. I won't say it's like mega huge. The developers are really good at compression, but it is a big, well-known game in that way. And to be able to stream that is kind of impressive. You know, I didn't see that coming. So the question becomes, how do you feel about the idea of not having to own a console or a computer? Because every game you could possibly want to play, you can just stream.
I, for one, really like that idea.
I mean, think about it this way. When's the last time you bought a movie?
I had mentioned that to our dad recently because they were down here, that I primarily use my internet service. I don't use cable or any paid television service because 90% of what I watch on a day-to-day or use is internet streamed or somewhere in that realm.
Yeah, the only time I ever buy a physical movie or physical, like, anything that can be streamed is if, one, I want to support that particular thing, or two, I always want access to it. So, for instance, I have some, like, K-pop albums here that I can listen on Spotify for free. But I want to support them.
I think you just like the collection of it.
Yeah, I was going to say our generation comes close enough to where we prefer having the physical media because it means a little bit more to us.
I only have a little bit for a reason. I really pick and choose who I want to buy it of. So it's not so much as a collection. Now, if you want to talk about collection, it's all my little figures. You can see them in the background. That is my collection. But music and like movies and stuff like that, it's not about the collection for me. It's about, one, either supporting them, or two, always wanting access to them because they're not always going to be on Netflix. They're not always going to be on Amazon Prime or whatever it is I choose to watch on.
Yeah, but that's how you think now. Imagine a society where it doesn't matter if it's always going to be around because no one cares. That's the old news.
Yeah.
Right, it's old. I only want to watch the latest and greatest. I want to watch what's now, what's happening. Let's go.
I feel like I agree with you, but I also don't, because I know people who have switched streaming services to continue watching the show that they love to binge. Because apparently watching one show, like there's that comfort show. Like if Gilmore Girls ever left Netflix, that's my comfort show. I've watched
She said, goodbye, Netflix. Good day. Good day, sir.
Natalie's the same way with Dexter.
See, there's
the
always...
murder guy.
Wow, that's a comfort show.
Natalie's such a nice person.
I don't judge my wife. Her background noise. And yes, I know she goes to sleep before me, so like it's yeah, her thing is like murder mysteries, things like that she likes to watch. Hers is Dexter, where she can have it on in the background and like make dinner or something. I know I should worry a little bit, but I don't.
I mean, there's many nights where Maverick would come to bed and I'm listening to a murder podcast.
She'll fall asleep to it. Then she'll wake up and I had a nightmare. I'm like, yeah, you want to know why?
Usually my nightmares are like, husband cheated on me, not murdered me. Okay.
Anyway, what were we talking about?
There's 2 points I'd like to make as far as the way things are going, and I think it ties back to Microsoft's switching from gaming to entertainment.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think they view gaming as just entertainment. They don't view it as gaming in the sense that it used to be. They see it more for the entertainment value of it and how engaged it can keep people. So for them to put it in one thing where you're sitting at your TV and you go, okay, well, I want to switch between my game and whatever it is I was watching. Because one of the selling points for the new gen of Xbox was that you could have a TV, like the game on in a little screen and still be playing your video game. I mean, that was one of their biggest selling points, was that you could do 2-in-1.
Oh, that's quite nice.
But see, that's, I think, their view on it. And because they cover such a broad spectrum now, they don't mind giving up their gaming system. Whereas before, it was the battle between systems.
I also think that they're realizing that it's not just kids who play video games anymore. It's everybody. I mean, Joe and I, we've talked about the gaming granny lady. I don't know her name, but she plays Call of Duty and is great at it. And she's a streamer, well known. She's a grandma who plays video games. So, like, everybody plays it now. So, they're trying to reach out not just to those kids who want the cool consoles, they're trying to reach out to everybody. And what does everybody have? TVs with streaming services.
Yeah, or phones or whatever.
Mm-hmm. So
yeah, the thing that impacts me is it's so strange to think about a society where I want to play a AAA title. You know, I want to boot up Horizon Zero Dawn or God of War, whatever. And I don't turn on my console. I don't have a console. I don't have a console. The TV, for the last decade at least, has been the way you use a TV now is completely different for most people age 35 and under than it was 20 years ago. People watch TV to watch TV. Now you use a TV. A TV is just a massive monitor now. That's all it is.
Yeah.
Right? It is a monitor hooked up to whatever, including your phone, right? We can all grab our phone and tether it to our TV. And this is not an exaggeration. In the last 5 years, I can count more times that I've streamed something from my phone to my TV than I have watched television. Easily.
Yeah, that goes back to that point of what you're paying for is not TV service anymore, because you get it all through streaming.
Mm.
And that actually happened to my father-in-law over the weekend, where he bought a new TV, and it's a smart TV, and I'm air quoting for those that can't see my hands. And he couldn't use it because he took it home, he plugged it in, he went to turn it on, and just like a new game, it says you need a firmware update.
Oh, of course.
So he calls us and he's like, hey, what do I do with this thing? So I go over there because I was like, it was hard to like get him to describe it over the phone. He's not one of those new technology. He doesn't have FaceTime. So I drive over there, and first thing I see is the TV literally didn't give him any other options but upgrading it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like connect to Wi-Fi. I'm like, do you know the Wi-Fi to the... Because he lives in inefficiency. So he doesn't have direct access to the internet. So I'm like, how can we up? So I literally had to drive back home, download the update on a jump drive, go back, and then try to update his TV so he could watch TV. Yeah. And here's the kick. It didn't work.
Of course it didn't.
I had to go to the company website, look up the model number, put every social pin thing that it had, and it's like, okay, you need this version firmware, download this. I did everything. Still didn't work. And it wouldn't even let you change your input. So even if you wanted to watch like a DVD, he couldn't. So I was like, hey, he had to go back and exchange it for a different TV.
This touches on what I'm afraid of with the future of gaming. Is I love the idea of owning a game. So my heart was broken when the industry moved away from physical medium. So there's so many games where, and I get it. Like, I understand and agree with the convenience of buying a game online and downloading it without having to drive to the store. I get it.
Not to mention less waste.
Right. Yeah, that too. I care about the environment. Just wasn't thinking about it. So, where the hell was I saying? Oh, my fear. Yes, sorry. My fear is that I'm going to be like 50, 60. And I'm going to be screaming at my TV like a madman with some kid going, Grandpa, stop it, because I can't play the game that I just bought because the internet's down or whatever. And I'm going to sound insane being like, back in my day, you could actually own things you bought. Just like people talk about like land and property or whatever. We're going to be those people
How are
moving
you
into the future.
saying in the future? That's now.
Yeah.
That's
Like,
literally what happened with the
that's-
TV. I had to tell him, like, if your internet's not working, you can't watch anything. So you need to go get a different TV that lets you change the input so you can hook a physical DVD player to it.
I mean, just
Yeah.
think about the people that have not great internet too.
Right.
You just bought a game, you plug it in, you need to update. You're going to be there for 8 hours updating.
You can't even watch TV because you have to update the TV.
Well, we're talking
Right.
about owning it. You're still using the idea of owning a physical thing that you plug in that then has to get updated.
I mean, you have to digitally download it too, right?
That's my point. Like, let's say you go and you buy something from a streaming service and the streaming service itself shuts down.
I mean,
right? Like,
that was an issue with PlayStation where they said, like, oh, this thing that a lot of people bought is no longer available because I guess they had a falling out with the company or something.
Oh, wait, was this Helldivers or no?
No, it was something else. I can't remember the title, and it's probably better that I don't. But relatively recently, they had sold, I think it was a movie, and they had sold the copy to all these people who had that downloaded and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they updated their new licenses, that wasn't a part of it. So they could no longer offer that movie through their thing. So again, all these people paid for it. And then when they changed over, they could no longer access it. And they're like, but I paid for it.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, sorry.
I think this is the main reason why physical copies are still being made today, is because people have experienced or, fear the possibility of experiencing where you buy a game, you love that game, you want to play it for a long time, and then a year goes by and they decide they no longer want to support that. So
but I think that's also why
own it.
I had the thought, I didn't mean to cut you off,
Mm-hmm.
but I think that's why microtransactions bother people so much, because that is literally forcing you to do that and not giving you the option
to. I mean, no one has to. I'm going to play devil's advocate, and I agree with you. I agree with you strongly. But devil's advocate, no one's forcing you to pull out your credit card with like a gun to your head and say, hey, you need to buy this extra skin. Or else.
It's usually me holding the gun to my own head, telling me, but sure.
But
I shouldn't do it, but I want to.
No, you
But if you look at the current system, and again, we're going back to the original part of this conversation, is with it all going to streaming, how do you avoid that? Because you have to pay for some form of access to it that can eventually end.
Here's where I see this going in the future, in the near future. More and more of the gaming industry is going to shift to online only. And I don't mean like play online multiplayer only like Diablo. I mean like legit get the game to begin with, online only. Once that shift happens, you're going to have what I'm going to call corporate ransom, where development studios, or whoever owns them, are going to release a game. It's going to get popular, and then they're going to say, sorry guys, these servers are really expensive. We're going to have to shut down. If you want to keep playing, you can play on these private servers that we host, but it's going to cost another $5-10 a month if you want to keep playing, because it takes upkeep, right? And I think that's going to happen very soon. As soon as streaming to purchase and play is the norm, you're going to see those little ransom events happening.
I think she's thinking the same thing I am, that it's technically already happening, because you have to buy either an Xbox Pass or a PlayStation Pass or something that gives you their online access. Otherwise, you can't play the game.
We went through that.
So actually, what I wanted to bring up was something different. It's on the topic, but not fully on the topic. I just looked it up because I saw something about it recently. Beginning on July 29th, that's in 4 days.
Eek.
Xbox will no longer support the Xbox 360 store or the Xbox 360 marketplace. So as of July 29th, Xbox 360 servers are basically being cut.
Yeah.
That's so crazy. And
But that system's how old?
Yeah,
I
that's
was about
pretty
to
old.
say. Let's see.
The
What I'm
360 came out
envisioning
quite a while
is
ago.
that this is going to happen like on things that are still
Current,
around.
yeah.
Ooh, just dated myself. Oh my god.
I know it's old. It's like
It's
2006.
2005.
Oh, see, I told you it was in
Ooh, man. I remember what I was doing in 2005.
Listen, we don't need to talk about that.
there.
I take it back. So we were talking about other stuff.
And the future of gaming trends, and I was really interested in the idea of, the streaming being the de facto. And I'm curious what people's vision of the future is when it comes to this. My vision is that consoles will go away. Consoles will be a thing that you get like, what are the old record players? I can go to Barnes and Noble and get like some hipster version of a record player. But they are dinosaurs. Like, you have them because you want to feel retro. I feel like that is the future of gaming. If you have a console, it is because you feel nostalgic about it, or you want to like be a retro design something.
Well, I don't know. I still stand against that because when you start looking into it, right, a streaming service can only provide so much. Like I only expect so much from Netflix or whatever. You're not going to get the quality or the graphics or the oomph that a PC or a console can put out, right?
Here's where
So,
the physical industry is going to change the game. Someone owes me a lot of money for this idea, is going to make a TV, and they're going to call it a gaming TV, just like smart TVs, but they're going to advertise it as it's going to, Samsung or whomever is going to say, I watched this podcast and this dude mentioned this, and Mr. Sir, we should do this. They're going to make,
please.
yeah, Sony, please.
Sony,
please.
Oh.
I love you guys. Sony's going to come out with a TV specifically called, not the smart TV, the gaming TV.
PlayStation.
And you're gonna buy the Sony gaming TV or the PlayStation television, whatever, whichever direction we want to go with it. And it's going to make consoles obsolete. And it's going to make them a lot of money because they're going to also advertise, well, if you don't want to use it for our games, that's fine, right? It's still as powerful as your computer. Why do you have a computer and a monitor and a TV and a console? Let's make life convenient for you while making so much money. So just buy our product that does it all. And why not? Think about how powerful. Sorry, I know I'm like going here. Think about how powerful this little thing is. It's the size of my hand, right? And I have really small hands because I'm weird. So like, imagine how much power you can actually pack into a TV whose only big so that the screen is big. The processing power is like this big in a TV, maybe less. Make a TV. They save space. They save manufacturing costs, especially if it's a company like Sony that's already making all this stuff. Slam it all together, advertise it as an all-in-one. Boom, you change the industry. You got rich. Everybody wins.
I wonder why they haven't done that yet. Switch.
They've done something similar. I know Sony.
Because they don't have this right here. I'm pointing at my brain for anyone listening, not watching. That's all. All it takes is one person to watch this podcast or, hit themselves on the head in the shower. They're going to go to their boss and they're going to like, let's get rich. And that's it. That's where I see the future of gaming in the next 5 years.
I hate it, but I love it. I would buy.
Isn't it awesome?
I would buy a PlayStation TV.
Sony was already close to that because for a while, this is back when I played on Sony, just to be fair to you guys. But they had a specific line of TVs that were specifically designed around the PlayStation.
Oh.
So its features, its graphics, everything was meant to be compatible with the PlayStation. Mm-hmm. So it ran everything a lot better.
Right.
Graphically, like it was designed around the system itself. So it's not that big of a stretch if they're saying, why have two and then just smack it together?
Yeah, and I'll bet it just wasn't quite. One of two things probably happened. Like
Probably a
one,
weight thing.
I'm sure the technology wasn't there in some fashion, weight or otherwise. Or option two is other TVs, the other manufacturers caught up, and then it was no longer worth doing. But if they put their proprietary system in there,
I'm gonna.
can't. Yeah, go ahead.
Our time is up.
No.
I knew we were there, but I thought you were going to say something. So I was like, let her do it. So we're going to end it on that one. Thank you again for joining us at Gaming at the Round Table with Crystal, Maverick, and myself. Have a good one.
Bye-byes.
Yeah.